So guys, yesterday we saw what might have been the worst player comparison since Deshaun Stevenson coming out of high school was compared to Michael Jordan. This is a worse comparison to when Rashad Phillips went on air and said Luka Doncic's ceiling was Hedo Turkoglu. They don't even play the same position. Or when Draft Express said Luka Doncic was going to be Danilo Gallinari. They don't play the same position. Or Karl Anthony Towns was going to be Andrew Bogut. You have one of the best offensive centers of all time versus an offensive negative who's one of the best defensive centers in the last 20 years. Like, they're all bad. But I'm sorry, like, is this the only logic is that they're both 6 foot tall and they're both white. Paul Pierce on Reggie Miller comparing her to Peyton Pritchard. He said she was like Peyton Pritchard. There is no similarities to their game, by the way. Like, not even one. Peyton Pritchard is so much closer to Kelsey Mitchell than she is to Caitlin Clark. And by the way, this isn't even a knock on Peyton Pritchard. I like Peyton Pritchard. Like, there were like rumblings of a Peyton Pritchard all-star run. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Like, Peyton Pritchard is one of those dudes where if he was on a garbage team and they just let him run amok, he would average 25 a game. Like, let's not get this twisted. Like, Peyton Pritchard, in my opinion, is better Cam Thomas. Like, he's not a bad player. He's, in fact, a great player. But, like, there's not even, like, stylistically, this makes no sense. Like, Peyton Pritchard is a shot creator. Peyton Pritchard is as a playmaker, Peyton Pritchard is a low assist, low turnover guy. He doesn't really make mistakes, but doesn't try to do anything. If anything, someone actually said it, where they were like, I heard this as an insult for Caitlin Clark. They were like, she's like LaMelo Ball with high IQ. And I'm like, well, LaMelo Ball with high IQ is the best point guard in the league. So yeah, you know what? Yeah. It's hard to pinpoint Caitlin Clark because she's like a Magic Johnson in the full court. In the way that she kind of sees the ball, is able to spread it left to right, the way she changes the tempo of a team. She's like a mixture between a Magic Johnson and how she passes and orchestrates a team, and a Russell Westbrook when she comes down with that defensive rebound. It's when Caitlin Clark gets a defensive rebound, it's basically 2 points or an open shot. Like, people don't understand. The Fever, when Caitlin Clark gets a rebound, there is a very good chance that the ball within 4 seconds is going in on the other end. It is actually scary what Caitlin Clark can do. Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Kidd with worse defense but a better jump shot. Prime Jason Kidd. Obviously, post-prime Jason Kidd could shoot the shit out of the ball. Then, obviously, Magic is an example. Magic might be a comparison one because Magic couldn't play defense either. Like, that is the biggest myth nowadays that I'm fully convinced people just believe it because of 2K. That Magic Johnson wasn't a traffic cone on defense. People are like, oh, all the greats, they were two-way players. But to be fair, Nico Hart, Patrick Dumont, the owner of the Mavs, was saying that Luka didn't have the work ethic of Shaq. And I used Shaq as like a picture of work ethic. Like, it was some hilarious things. But this is one of the worst comparisons. And Caitlin's face just dropped when it happened. Like, comparing her to Peyton Pritchard. Like, it's not even... there are very few players. If you want to compare to Halliburton, and I understand Halliburton is more careful with the ball, Caitlin Clark is way more... goes for the spectacular. And it's like, when it comes to Caitlin Clark's turnovers, you want them to come down, but you also don't want to change her being her. And that's why I don't like Steph White as a coach for Caitlin Clark, is because Caitlin Clark went on a podcast and said, like, basically has been telling her that, like, when she went on that run against New York, she basically was like, oh, Steph wouldn't have been happy with those shots. And I'm like, man, sometimes when you have, like, a mercurial talent, you have to just let them be. You have to just let them be them. Because when you're Caitlin Clark, and this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest difference between Caitlin and any other player. And this is when you see it with Paige. I think Paige is a really good passer, but Paige, you can see it when she runs the pick and roll. The difference between Caitlin and Paige running the pick and roll is that Paige, when she makes the passes, she waits that 0.3 of a second to see if her player's open and to make the pass. And sometimes what that leads to is, by the time Paige hits a player, and it's very different on Rival, by the way, because there can't be help defense on the screen roll. By the time Paige hits a player down low, it's that split second too slow and they get contested. Whereas Caitlin Clark knows, by the way she's being defended, when Caitlin Clark comes off a screen and sees the defenders, she has and it's the reason why Caitlin Clark, if you watch Caitlin Clark, she turns the ball over 100 times more when Demirs Dantas is on the floor, or Bree Turner's on the floor when Leah Boston's on the floor. They have, the link up between Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston's crazy, is that Caitlin will literally come off a screen and sees the way the defender is and just chuck it into space. She will just chuck the ball into space, knowing that Leah Boston's going to that space. That's why Jonquel Jones was so shocked with the pass she threw at All-Star break. Is like, nobody other than Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston knew Leah Boston was going to be open. Not one player on her team, not one player on the other team. Because Caitlin saw the way Aaliyah was being defended, the way she was being defended, and knew in a second, Aaliyah's going to be in this position. Let's chuck it to that. And it's like, you can't teach what Caitlin Clark is as a player. You can't teach it. You can't even really compare it. Like, Steve Nash is probably the best example I can give in the NBA for who just, it's not even a IQ thing. It's not even, it's the feel. That ability to process the game, to know what's going on, to see 1-2 passes ahead. Nash, with the ball in his hands, is the last person I remember being like that. LeBron, as everyone hypes up LeBron and Rondo's IQ. Rondo, maybe Rondo had a bit of that in him. But like, it is, you can't teach it. You can't quantify what Caitlin Clark is as a player. You can't quantify what Caitlin Clark is as a basketball player. And ironically, Caitlin's turnovers are going to go down the higher IQ players you put her with. Because if you can find bigs and wings, and by the way, Kelsey Mitchell is like it's hard to even compare it. It's like fucking soccer. It's literally like comparing the two of them to soccer. It's like there is this almost between like De Bruyne and Haaland. When Haaland had that record season, De Bruyne would just get the ball. And he would see the way they were set up, and he would just kick the ball into space, knowing Haaland's going to be there, and Haaland's going to run into that space. It's something that people don't appreciate in basketball, where it's like, you have to be willing to live with the turnovers. You want them down. You absolutely want them down. But if you are a coach or you're a system that takes that away from Caitlin Clark, you don't want Caitlin Clark on your team then. And I don't believe Stephanie White does. And you don't want Caitlin Clark on your team. You want Paige. And by the way, I do fully believe if you asked Stephanie White, would she trade Caitlin for Paige, she would say yes. If you asked Kurt Miller or the new, a lot of coaches, would you trade Caitlin for Paige, they would say yes. I think that would be absolutely a thing. But at the same time, if you ask Leah Boston, does she want to play Caitlin or Paige, she'd be like, no, let's get me the player that, has assisted to me 10 times in one game. That has literally gotten me 3 career highs by just putting the ball in my hand for layups. let's get her. But yeah. Anyway, that is the video. Awful comparison. It's hard. What is your Caitlin Clark comparison? Leave in the comments below. For me, I think she's a one-of-a-kind player. Because I don't think you can quantify what Caitlin Clark does. I don't think she's as good a shooter as Steph. I don't think she's good an off-the-ball mover as Steph. Her ability to shoot from distance is second to none. The fact that she shoots basically the same percentage from 35 as she does from 25 or from a foot outside the three-point line is scary. It doesn't seem to affect her jump shot, how far away she throws it from, which makes her extremely dangerous. But she is not this absolute lights out 45% three-point shooter like a Steph. She just has the range to make her more dangerous. I think, like, if Trae Young was 6'7" is probably the best comparison. But again, if Trae Young was 6'7", like, we'd be talking about the best point guard in the NBA. Like,